I used to work with Y.B.I, the guys up at Y.B.I. Shout out to Pep. You know what I'm saying? Skip, Butch, and all them, T Baby, and when Pep came to Boston from Detroit, it was really all about getting money, and he came with that dog food. You know what I'm saying? We could say it now. I said before I necessarily couldn't mention this, but they all are writing their books now, and it's all coming out. They doing their stories, so now it's safe that I could talk about it. But I used to hustle heavily with them. Me and my guys from Boston. He bought a bunch of guys from Detroit and turned them from the Y.B.I. to the Bomb Boys. The Bomb Boys came, and it was really like about heroin. You know what I'm saying? And man, he turned the whole city up. He started out in Columbia Point Projects and moved up to Four Corners, and then pretty soon the whole entire Dorchester, Roxbury was, to the point I got real close to him. With those guys. My first flights were taking flights to Detroit, and we had a lot of shit all up in our drawers, bundles. Yeah, because you never got searched on those planes.
Okay.
Like back then, there was no searching.
Right.
We used to end, and it was like $30. We fly to Detroit.
Wow.
$29.
No TSA.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I think it was Republican Airline or some shit. I forgot what the fuck it was. But I just remember going back and forth and Pep put it down in Boston. We always wore Adidas, and that was the thing where, like I told you, I've wore Adidas for 47 years straight. I've never had a pair of Nikes or Jordans, but that's what Detroit niggas were on. So we had a lot of similarities. But he bought a bunch of Detroit niggas that got close to us. A couple of them got killed. Same thing with Pep, bought a bunch of Boston niggas, and you know what I'm saying. So really had close ties to Detroit for a long time. Had a lot of respect and admiration for Detroit. I was telling Donnie that I always felt like Detroit was a city was so important to the culture, like to what Atlanta is now. Detroit was, meaning at one point it was the biggest music scene, and had the biggest music stars. As far as the dope game, it was crazy because Canada's right there, and everything comes across that river so easily. So Detroit was, full of. So me coming from a city where white people ran it, and it was always the white people getting the good jobs, and I'm seeing this shit, and I'm getting chased by white people, and we fighting with white people. So I grew up like that, where Detroit is a black city of black people getting money on all angles. And I just always, the fashion came out of Detroit. It was, you know what I'm saying? So I always paid attention to Detroit at a young age.